Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com, and I'm coming to you from the Verto system as the AC guys are here, the hole-in-the-ceiling studios. Let me tell you right now, there is no ceiling right now. But here's the good news. They should have it all done by the end of the day today, and tomorrow I'll have my nice, cozy studio back. But, Jason, the show must go on, and we got another great program for all of you today. But before we get into the economic side of things, I got to tell you, my wife was letting me know yesterday, my youngest son, who's home from school, working a summer job. He started to not feel very well last week. And, we weren't too worried, whatever. And then all of a sudden, by Thursday, we're like, uh-oh, he's really not feeling well. And we end up taking him, you go to urgent care, and, of course, now you show up at urgent care, you're not feeling well, right? The first thing they got to do is the COVID test. Everyone's masked up. My wife's not allowed to, he's 19, so my wife, nope, you can't be back here with him, blah, 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 blah. And he tests positive for the flu. Doesn't have COVID, but he has flu A, which they said, yeah, it's bad, whatnot. Then fast forward to Saturday, he's no better. So, you do it again, right? You go to the urgent care. It's the same thing as last time. They test him again. Nope, he's just got the flu and take this and take that. And we're doing all that stuff. And yesterday morning, he's sick again. And, he's got to go and coming and going, if you know what I mean. It's not good. Fever's, 102, 103. So my wife this time says, you know what, I'm not taking him to urgent care. She takes him to the emergency room over at Scottsdale, the old Scottsdale North. I have no idea what they call it today. And my wife, the first thing she says is, oh, yeah, there's a whole new policy in place at the urgent care. At the hospital, at the emergency room. The hospital says to my wife, well, okay, your insurance, it's 80-20, because, I'm self-employed. So, and I've told this story a million times about how bad we continue to pay more and more and more. I think right now we pay somewhere around $1,100 a month, and the first 10 grand and this, that, the other. But anyway, the hospital says, well, we think that it's going to be about $1,000 for your son's visit today. So 80-20. Yeah, you need to give us $200. It used to be. Before Obamacare, right? You go to the hospital, you paid your copay, $35. And that was kind of the end of it. Of course, this is, I'm not telling anybody out there anything new. But here's what was really interesting as she was, by the way, she said no one's masked up at the hospital, that she was allowed to be with our son and do all, exact opposite of what was going on at the urgent care. But the funny thing is the doctor, when they got in there, and again, once again, he got COVID test number. I forget whatever number he's on now. But, same result. He's got the flu. But the doctor that came in to see him said, yeah, he goes, the flu is horrible this year. It is one of the worst flus in a really long time, and said having the flu now is much worse than having COVID. But he'd have been better off in COVID. The hospital, kind of like, for those of you that were listening to the Half Empty Cup of Joe yesterday, I was telling you how in L.A. the unelected health officials there were trying to reinstitute a mask policy, and all of a sudden the largest hospital in LA County, the president and their top epidemiologist came out and did a press conference saying, hey, COVID's nothing, right? Hardly anybody's being admitted with COVID. The ones that are admitted because of COVID are being admitted because of something else, and nobody's going in the ICUs. And the funny thing is that's what basically the hospital in Scottsdale was saying the same thing. And Jason, I guess we shouldn't probably be surprised that the mainstream media, though, again, I saw it again today, all these articles threatening more mask mandates and all of these things, and yet the realities on the ground, at least from the hospitals, are you should be more worried about getting the flu than you should be about having COVID.
Yeah, Joe, I think the masks and vaccine stuff is kind of like a loaded gun. You know, they just when it becomes the appropriate time to need that distraction, they'll fire it off. But right now, they're not seriously forcing these mandates right now. But I mean, Joe, all they have to do is disguise it to whatever it is, the future, and pretty soon, it's no longer a positive flu test. It's whatever they want it to be, Joe. I mean, these tests don't trust them.
Right.
So,
it's just amazing. It's just crazy anymore. I mean, how many tests does the one guy have to get, right? Anyway, we'll be back with the economic news of the day. Don't touch that dial. 800-951-0592. And I'll say this, my wife, she never misses a beat. She did ask the hospital, well, can I get a breakdown of this $1,000? They couldn't do it. They couldn't provide it. It's just idiocracy. Where would you go? And they just, and again, I don't know where they came up with the $1,000, but you would think, anyone that runs a business, hey, you're going to charge somebody $1,000, you would think you'd at least get a breakdown of what that $1,000 would entail, Jason.
I think it's they have a price per whatever insurance you're using, Joe. So if you're no insurance, there's a price, and depending on what kind of coverage you have, they have a set price. So they can't break it down because they don't want to say, hey, you're using this insurance, so it's $1,000. But if you have that crappy insurance and you're poor, it probably would have been $600.
Yeah, and the funny part was too, my wife even said, well, what if I pay cash? Is there a cash price? No, they didn't have one of those either. So, but anyway, I digress. I'm done.
I'll say this, Joe. You got to say this, Joe. That if she's like, all I have is cash, give me a price. What are they going to do? Say no?
Right.
What she said, insurance. They went after it, man. So, got to start with cash.
That was probably the first mistake, was even saying we had insurance. Right. That we probably should have done that again. But. Looking at what's happening right now, gold is flat today, oil is flat today, the Dow's up 500 points today. Again, remember last week I told you I think the Dow's going to rally for a few weeks, and not on any news. That's the important thing. Yesterday, the Dow was up, if you remember, by the end of the day, it ended up the day almost 300 points down, because Apple came out and said, hey, you know what, we're starting to see it. We're going to nix our hiring plans. We're also, the spending growth for next year is going to be reduced in some divisions. We won't increase headcount at all in 2023, whereas normally we'd hire 5 to 10% more employees in a given year. They said the move is due to quote-unquote uncertain time. And, of course, obviously, Apple's saying, hey, also we're noticing a slowdown in our, in our sales, in our phone sales, our headset sales, all that other stuff. So that got the market on edge yesterday. This morning, it was IBM's turn, as IBM said, hey, you know what, we thought we were going to make some money, but, we're probably not going to, unless we go to non-GAAP, right? If you allow us to use unapproved accounting measures we may be able to make a couple of pennies. So that was how the day started. But the news of the day, Jason, ready for this? The Dow's up 500 points because analysts, these experts, are saying, well, maybe earnings won't be as bad as some people are thinking in the second half of this year. So, again, all they're doing is putting your money to work, because what else can they do with it? Jason, I'm going to say this, just like gas prices coming down, the stock market rally is going to be very short-lived, but none of it matters. Listen, this is all smokescreen. This is all smokescreen. We had huge news last week about Saudi Arabia joining BRICS, right? And we talked about that, and of course, obviously Turkey and Egypt, and then they hinted that more members are coming. Last night, well, I guess yesterday afternoon, it was announced through the Treasury Department. This is data through May, and this is who is buying and selling U.S. Treasuries. And Jason, one of the things I want to highlight in here, number one, corporates. And I tell everybody, listen, Apple doesn't keep their money in the bank. Microsoft doesn't keep their money in the bank. And what I mean by that is they got enough money to do what they need to do. Hey, we've got payroll covered, and we got to pay the leases on buildings, and we got to buy raw materials, right? They got the money, but I'm talking about the money that they don't need. They don't put it and leave it in the bank. They buy bonds, and predominantly, obviously, U.S. bonds. To give you an example, corporates have been averaging $20 to $40 billion a month of buying of treasuries, according to the Treasury Department. That stopped in May. Jason, in May, they only bought $4 billion, which tells you the amount of money that these corporations have left over is drastically down. Yep. But the other big news in there was China. China, which now has dumped $100 billion of U.S. Treasury 6 months. Their Treasury holdings, Jason, now below $1 trillion.
Yeah, Joe, I was going to say, quarter three GDP and the corporate earnings for third quarter is going to fall off a cliff, man. There's nobody selling anything. I can't. I'll say it. There's everywhere I go, and small businesses, and I'm seeing large corporations. They're not selling stuff, Joe. Everybody has stopped buying. It is going to come to a complete frozen halt. I can give you an example. One of the guys I watch, his name is Jeremiah Babe. He does these daily, YouTube videos. And he put this one out, Joe. It's like, how do you know when Walmart or these big department stores have too much stuff and they're afraid they're not going to be able to unload it and sell it? You start selling Halloween stuff in July. That's what he saw. He was filming. He's like, look, Halloween stuff is out in July, Joe. Makes me wonder how bad these big corporations know the sales are just gone. People aren't buying stuff.
Yeah, and again, I think this is some wishful thinking on a lot of people's part. I know that yesterday my wife and I decided, hey, let's get some steps in. As all of you know, I've been losing a lot of weight, and we decided to go, and there's a Desert Ridge Mall. We said, well, let's just walk the mall. And we were walking out there. Of course, it was 1,000,000 degrees. It was a horrible idea, but I'm just sweating horribly. But we decided, hey, let's just duck into Kohl's, get out of the heat, and walk. Do a lap in the inside of Kohl's. And their clearance, they had clearance stuff everywhere, 50% off. They had this portion of the store that was nothing but clearance. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah, Joe, it's better to get 10 cents or 25 cents on the dollar than to get zero. If you know, 'cause they have to compete against all the other stores that seem to be overloaded with stuff now. It went from this so-called shortages that we were having a year ago to now everybody's desperately overstocked. So this is going to be some interesting water that people are going to be treading. And with the radio station KHNC, I deal with these advertisers, Joe, and I haven't heard nothing but bad stories. It's not like it's kind of fallen off. It's a rough time. It's all been nothing. I'm getting nothing. I am selling nothing. Nobody is buying anything. It's been. I mean, it's like July. A switch was turned, Joe. July hit. A switch was turned, and everybody stopped buying stuff.
Well, we'll see how this all of it plays out. But again, why I said I don't really care about what the Wall Street pundits are saying for us. The situation in Germany is going to be very dire because really, I mean, I don't know what the Russians are going to do, but there's really no reason for them to turn the gas back on. We'll see whether they do or don't. But yesterday, if you missed yesterday, they declared a force majeure and said that they're going to be unable to supply gas. And, of course, Germany, the biggest player in that. And I want to point out, too, something else worth pointing out. They weren't the only ones yesterday declaring force majeure. The Canadian energy firm that runs the Keystone Pipeline, the part that's actually open, they declared, TC Energy declared a force majeure for crude oil shipments on its pipeline. This is a pipeline that goes in the Dakotas, and what happened was the reason why was there was a power failure at a pump station in South Dakota, and they said because, the temperatures hit over 100 degrees, overloaded it, and they said it's going to be, they don't know how long, they don't anticipate it to be too long, but just so you know, this pipeline, which connects to the Dakotas and then actually goes to the big Cushing, Oklahoma, so there could be some inventory issues there that we'll have to pay attention to. But this power problem continuing to get worse and worse. But again, when we look at what China's doing, this isn't a slow pullback. When you're talking about unloading $100 billion worth of treasuries in a 6-month period, and the fact that, they don't even hold $1 trillion of them anymore, it's got to be, Jason, pretty close to the number of treasuries that are maturing every month. And China's just like saying, hey, we're done buying U.S. dollars. And if this trend continues, and then Saudi Arabia announces, hey, we're joining BRICS, and oh, by the way, China will now be paying in renminbi for crude oil. Jason, that's a major blow to the United States.
That's correct, Joe. And all of the debt that's out there, if these other countries aren't going to use dollars, then there is one place you can spend those dollars. You can come here and buy stuff here. So I think it's why we have such a weird situation with shortages sometimes, and maybe a glut is what we're kind of coming into now, Joe. It's they're going to spend whatever dollars are still floating around out there. They're going to be spent on something, and I mean I think America may be facing some weird, unusual time. Our economy may actually not match other economies for the first time in a while, because usually if something goes bad in America, everybody goes bad. It's possible, Joe, we're looking at maybe America goes bad, and maybe the rest of the world isn't so bad. Maybe the small countries, but Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, maybe they're playing a better hand.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think China's got their own problems. Obviously,
yeah.
Russia with all the sanctions. Saudi Arabia still fighting that war in Yemen. I don't know that anybody escapes it, if you will. I think everybody right now is still taking a big bite of that sandwich. But again, I think this can change very quickly, and I just want to caution everybody, just like the last time, it was everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. Oh wait, everything's not fine, and I just feel like we're reliving '07 and '08, where Wall Street is trying to prevent. I mean, just think back to this. Those of you that lived here in Arizona in '07, the housing bubble had already, the housing bubble had popped in '05 here. It was a ghost town as far as housing went back here. And remember, the Fed was still raising rates. Ben Bernanke was telling you it was just a little bit of froth and it's just a subprime problem. And we're raising rates, and this is August of '07, and then Lehman Brothers collapses, and then by March, Bear Stearns is out of business. I mean, it happens just that fast. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here. On this Tuesday, and all of the things aside, right? When we talk about, Wall Street and earnings, and I mean, maybe they're right. I mean, maybe earnings will be better than expected. I haven't seen it. I'm not only haven't I seen it from the companies, I haven't seen it when I'm out and about, and just casually observing things. But there's a big shift going on. Germany is a huge, unforeseen issue. Hassim Talbi used to call them the black swan, right? That unforeseen event that really catches people out of nowhere. We'll see what happens there. Now, there's other events that aren't unforeseen. Japan. What's happening there? What's happening in Italy, right? As a matter of fact, right now, the EU, they just had a Fed talking, they're going to raise 50 basis points, but they are actively buying Italian bonds right now to try to keep Italy from falling apart. And then we talk about Japan was selling U.S. Treasuries, China was selling U.S. Treasuries, corporations, because profits are down, are buying less treasuries. Right now, the big action in treasuries, Jason, is investors getting out of Wall Street and just saying, hey, I'm going to hide out in treasuries. Because, again, even investors know, and I'm talking the big investors, right, the hedge funds, the billionaires, they don't put their money in the bank. Because otherwise, right, why would they? I'm just going to sell my stocks and I'm going to put it in my bank. They don't do that because they know any unforeseen, these black swans and all that could be gone. Wall Street on Parade, the Martins did a great article in about 10 days ago talking about, hey, remember how they promised to protect us all? And that they put all this new rules into place, and they were watching over the financial system. The Office of Financial Research, which is a department of the U.S. Treasury, it got created under Dodd-Frank, and its job, now think about this, its job is to be the one that issues the warnings of any type of catastrophic financial crisis that may pop up. And so the Martins, under, once again, Freedom of Information Act, all of these things, said that the Office of Financial, let me get it right here, the Office of Financial Research did not see what I'll call the bond market tantrum of 2018 whatsoever. There was no warning from this group, Jason. And again, the problem that we have with all of these quote unquote protections, It's the wolf guarding the hen house, right? They're the ones that are guarding it. The banks, the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, they're all in this thing together. And the reason why I pointed out that little deal, and remember what Wall Street, people forget, Wall Street dropped like 10,000 points on that little tantrum. Jason, that cost $19 trillion to bail that little ditty out when it was all said and done. Now, of course, we know the Fed's balance sheet, right? It went from just under $4 trillion at the time to over $9 trillion. And, of course, now they're, quote-unquote, selling off their balance sheet again. And I'm going to tell you right now, we have no protection. These groups that they created to protect us have never seen a problem, I don't think, ever.
Everything you're saying, it's kind of like a checklist. It's like, yep. I agree with everything. It's doing a show with Joe, it's interesting because sometimes we'll disagree on a few things, but once in a while, Joe, you'll ramble off a bunch of stuff. It's like, well, that's just the way that I see it also, Joe. This is the way it's going to be. And again, the reason why I'm pointing it out is you guys need to know you have to be the ones protecting yourself. There is no system in place, and I don't care how many branches of government they create, how many things that they come out and say, oh, look, and we've got this and we've got that, and there is no protection for us. You have to be the one that protects yourself. And the fact of the matter is, when we look at Dodd-Frank, another horrible piece of legislation that really gave the banks even more powers. Last week we talked about J.P. Morgan's earnings, right? Remember, they were one of the worst performers of the stress test, and then, of course, their earnings weren't very good. They had to stop buying back their own stock. Jamie Dimon, he goes on CNBC, right, the cheerleading station, and he acts all upset about these stress tests. Oh, it's not fair because they say that this or that's going to happen, and said that we could lose $8 billion. We're not going to lose $8 billion, right? And, of course, that's what they always say, because here's the realities. The realities are these guys right in front, can't see what's going down the road. They don't know what's around the next corner. And let's face it, Jason, they're driving 1,000 miles an hour down the road. And an accident, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And right now, there are so many warning signs, right? And, I look at it, Jamie Dimon called it a hurricane, call it a blizzard, call it what you will. You're out there, it's pouring down rain, right? You can't see a foot in front of your face, and everybody's driving 100 miles an hour down the freeway. The accident is right around the corner, and just like what they did in 07 and 08, this is a carbon copy of them coming out and saying, well, maybe it won't be that bad versus getting people protected, Jason. We'll be back. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason, right after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Let me give you another example. Everything was fine 2019. Right? Trump was president, the economy was, it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. The thing about it, though, is Jason and I were warning you about Wall Street and what was happening. Let me give you an example. So remember, they create this watchdog agency because they're supposed to warn us. Okay? The Financial Stress Index is what this group created. So this is
They create this group, they come up with this index, and this index is supposed to give a warning sign. It was measuring below normal levels of stress on September 17th, 2019. So think about this for just a minute. Below normal levels of stress. So first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is, our index isn't working very well. Because why would we have below normal levels? But again, this is the wolf guarding the hen house. That night, the night of September 17th, the overnight repo loan rate, this is what banks loan to other banks, and Jason and I, we've explained the repo market before. Some banks, at the end of the day, whenever, they make all the payments. Okay, we had 10 million people make their mortgage payment. We had 30 million people make their car payments. We had 40 million people make their credit card payments. This payment, that payment. Some banks will have not enough money, liquid cash, and other banks will have more cash than what they need. And what they'll do is they have this little repo market where Bank A says, hey, I need $1 billion. Here's $1 billion of treasuries. You loan me your cash. And then tomorrow, you're going to need the $1 billion, and it's a little shell game, okay? And that's why I said they're so close to insolvency. Most people don't understand it. But it was 2% on September 16th. On September the 17th, the day that their financial stress index was measuring below normal levels, the repo loan rate spiked from 2% to 10%, signaling that one or more important, and I love how they use the word important, one or more important Wall Street firm was in trouble. The repo loan market is an overnight loan market, and I told you we're banks, brokers, firms, mutual funds, they're all in on this repurchase agreement. Jason, so there's this massive spike, which signifies one or more of these important Wall Street firms is in trouble. And again, I'm highlighting, this was September 17, 2019. No one had even heard of COVID yet. By all accounts, everything seemed pretty normal. And of course, this is why when we think about how much we've spent in COVID, all these bills that got passed, we bailed out pension funds. I mean, we've done so much dirty work in here. But according to the Martin, this little exercise, of course, remember, this is when the quantitative tightening immediately ended and the Fed's balance sheet blew up. And like I said, they added another $5 trillion to their balance sheet. The Martin said it was worse than that. These banks and quote-unquote important financial institutions needed almost $20 trillion. $20 trillion. That's actually more than all of the deposits here in the United States. And the problem now, Jason, is they're trying to do this tightening again, right? They're selling off their balance sheet, which is now $9 trillion. We've got huge problems in Japan, in Italy, in Germany, in France. Heck, we don't even know if the power can stay on in Texas and South Dakota.
Joe, is Glenn...
And they're sitting there trying to... Go ahead, Jason.
Well, it was Glenn Beck that said he was just theorizing maybe $1 trillion a week, right? Every week to keep this thing floating.
Yeah, we played that from Glenn Beck. Absolutely. And I guess here's the thing. They're clueless when it comes to sounding the alarm. And this is the problem, and this is why this should not be happening right now. I mean, look at this. We all agree that the Fed is going to raise interest rates by 0.75 of a point, yet the 10-year note is at 2.995. Let's round up. Is at 3. And by the way, this is the highest the 10-year note has been in about a month and a half, and we know to do another 75 basis points. But again, remember the 2-year note. The 2-year note's yielding almost 3.25. This tells you there is an incredible amount of stress that is actually taking place, and nobody's warning anybody.
It might go a full point at the end.
They're not out there warning.
Might do a full point at the end of July, maybe, huh, Joe? Full point?
Yeah, they could. I doubt it, but they could. You're right. They could absolutely do it. They're not going to do less. That's a given. It's going to be at least 75. And again, you need to be your own central bank. Heck, even the Swiss have moved their gold secretly. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Gold's up 5 now, 17.15. Silver is positive as well now, 18.80. I said earlier the Dow's still up 500 points. I think the bottoms look like they're forming here, especially in silver. I still have some silver quarters. They're $215. Gold has gotten extremely, extremely tight. Matter of fact, just 5 minutes ago, got another email from the world's largest wholesaler looking to buy any and all uncertified gold out there. Right now, I've only got 35.20s. 35.20s, $2,110. Tomorrow, assuming gold 17.15. Tomorrow we're going to see 21.25. But I have these left over from the other day. So I've got 35.20s, $2,110. And I'm out of a bag and a half here of quarters, silver quarters. You get 40 silver quarters in a roll, Jason, at $215. This is about as cheap as silver gets here. It hit a low. I think $18 was about the low for silver. And again, this is paper silver, not physical silver. All of it extremely difficult to get. 800-951-0592. But Jason can tell you he gets the same emails that I get. People are desperate for product right now. And again, this is serious. This tells you when these things happen, the big money, they're going and buying gold right now. Don't be fooled by. I always think too, it's by design when we see these pullbacks that don't make sense. We saw it in 07, in 08. Gold went from 1,000 to 700, and then went to 1,900. We saw it here, right? Gold was 2,100, went to 1,700, right? Silver went to $18, and then all of a sudden I come out on the air and say, "Guys, there's nothing out there," because this is where the money has gone. I think they do it on purpose. They can control the paper price to try to allow them to buy less. You need to be buying it while the price is down. 800-951-0592. Once again, that is $20 gold. Don't have a lot. 21.10. If you want to buy more than what we have, you can, but the price goes up to 21.25. And then silver right now, the best buy I have, silver quarters. You get 40 silver quarters in a roll. They're $215 per roll at 800-951-0592. And the nice one, I think both Colorado and Arizona, we have these in stock. So you can pick these up today if you so desire. Again, 9-2 and just add to them, because remember, there is no warning system. They created all these agencies to just do the job of re-verifying. Oh, no, they're doing a great job. The pressure is absolutely on. The bond market is telling you that. God bless everybody.